The mahogany conference room on the 47th floor of Goldman-Chase Financial overlooked Manhattan's skyline, but CEO Richard Blackstone barely noticed the view. He was too busy preparing for what he thought would be the easiest rejection of his 25-year banking career. LeBron James wanted a $500 million loan. Blackstone had laughed when his assistant first mentioned the meeting request. A basketball player asking for $500 million? The audacity was almost amusing. He'd approved the meeting purely for entertainment value, and maybe a good story to tell at the country club. But in exactly 24 hours, Richard Blackstone would be sitting in that same chair, hands trembling as he dialed LeBron's number, practically begging the king to reconsider his decision. Have you ever been so wrong about someone that it cost you everything you thought you knew about power? Because what happened in that conference room wasn't just a loan rejection. It was the day a Wall Street titan learned that real wealth isn't measured in bank balances. It's measured in vision, influence, and the ability to see opportunities that others can't even imagine. But before I tell you about the 24-hour period that turned a banking CEO into a desperate man begging for forgiveness, you need to understand just how badly Richard Blackstone misread the most powerful athlete in the world. Richard Blackstone had spent his entire career in the rarefied air of high finance. Harvard MBA, 25 years at Goldman Chase, and a personal net worth that put him in the top 0.1% of Americans. He'd approved loans for tech moguls, oil barons, and real estate developers. In his mind, he was the gatekeeper of serious money. When LeBron James requested a meeting to discuss a significant investment opportunity requiring substantial financing, Blackstone assumed it was another celebrity vanity project. Maybe a restaurant chain, perhaps a fashion line, possibly even a small media company. He certainly didn't expect what LeBron actually walked in with. That Tuesday morning, LeBron arrived at Goldman Chase precisely on time, dressed in an impeccable navy suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. But it wasn't the suit that should have warned Blackstone. It was the team that followed him. Dr. Sarah Chen, former MIT professor and current director of sustainable technology at Tesla. Marcus Rodriguez, the investment strategist who'd helped structure the Amazon Whole Foods merger. Elena Volkov, the international logistics expert who designed supply chains for 3 Fortune 500 companies. But Blackstone barely noticed them. In his mind, they were just expensive consultants trying to make a basketball player look sophisticated. The meeting began with pleasantries. Coffee was served in bone china cups, small talk about the Lakers' season, and New York weather. Blackstone was already mentally composing his polite rejection when LeBron opened his presentation. "Mr. Blackstone," LeBron began, "I'm here to discuss the largest sustainable infrastructure project in American history." Blackstone's smirk was barely concealed. Here it comes, he thought. Another athlete with delusions of grandeur. He had no idea he was about to witness a business presentation that would be studied in Harvard Business School for the next decade. LeBron's first slide was simple. A map of the United States with 47 cities highlighted in green. "The LeBron James Sustainable Cities Initiative," he announced calmly. A $500 million investment to transform American urban infrastructure through integrated renewable energy, smart transportation, and community development. Blackstone's expression shifted from amusement to mild interest. At least the numbers were big enough to be taken seriously. But then LeBron began to speak. And everything Blackstone thought he knew about the man across from him started to crumble. "Mr. Blackstone, are you familiar with the economic impact of urban heat islands on municipal energy costs?" Before Blackstone could respond, LeBron continued. "Cities like Phoenix and Las Vegas spend an additional $2.3 billion annually on cooling costs due to poor urban planning and insufficient green infrastructure. My proposal addresses this through integrated solar canopy systems that reduce ambient temperature while generating clean energy." Dr. Chen stepped forward with detailed engineering schematics. Marcus Rodriguez presented economic projections that showed 847% return on investment over 15 years. Elena Volkov outlined supply chain partnerships with manufacturers in 23 countries. But it was LeBron who tied it all together with a level of business acumen that left Blackstone speechless. Each city in our program will see immediate economic benefits, LeBron explained, pointing to specific data points. Job creation averages 12,000 positions per municipality. Tax revenue increases by an average of 34% within 3 years. Property values in project areas increase by 67%. Blackstone tried to interrupt. Mr. James, this is certainly ambitious, but the complexity of coordinating 47 mayors have already signed letters of intent, LeBron said smoothly, sliding a thick folder across the table, including the mayors of Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Phoenix, and Miami. We also have preliminary approval from the Department of Energy and endorsements from the Environmental Protection Agency. The room fell silent. Blackstone opened the folder, scanning official letterheads and signatures that he recognized from national news coverage. Furthermore, LeBron continued, we've secured manufacturing partnerships that will reduce costs by 23% compared to traditional infrastructure projects, while creating supply chain redundancies that eliminate single point of failure risks. Dr. Chen added, the technology integration allows each city to function as both an energy producer and consumer, creating a distributed grid that's more resilient than current centralized systems. Marcus Rodriguez presented the financial projections. Conservative estimates show break-even at 7.2 years, with full investment recovery plus 847% returns over the 15-year project timeline. Blackstone was struggling to process what he was hearing. This wasn't a celebrity vanity project. This was a sophisticated multi-billion-dollar infrastructure initiative with government backing, proven technology, and detailed financial planning. But his Wall Street arrogance wouldn't let him admit he'd been wrong. Richard Blackstone straightened his tie and put on his most condescending banker voice. Mr. James, he began, I appreciate the creativity of this proposal. But Goldman-Chase Financial doesn't typically invest in projects that are essentially urban planning experiments, regardless of how many consultants you've hired to make it look legitimate. LeBron's expression didn't change, but Dr. Chen and Marcus Rodriguez exchanged glances. Blackstone continued. Our institution has a fiduciary responsibility to our shareholders. A $500 million loan to someone whose primary expertise is basketball represents an unacceptable risk profile. The silence in the room was deafening. Furthermore, Blackstone added, clearly enjoying what he thought was his moment of authority, this type of infrastructure investment typically requires government funding or institutional partnerships that, frankly, someone from your background wouldn't be able to secure. LeBron closed his presentation folder calmly. Mr. Blackstone, he said quietly, thank you for your time. I understand your position. He stood up, gathering his materials. Dr. Chen, Marcus, Elena, let's proceed with our backup financing option. Blackstone felt a moment of satisfaction. Another celebrity put in their place by financial reality. But then LeBron paused at the door. Oh, Mr. Blackstone, you might want to check the financial news tomorrow morning. I think you'll find it educational. The door closed behind them, leaving Blackstone alone with the realization that something in LeBron's tone suggested this wasn't over. He dismissed the feeling. After all, what could a basketball player possibly do to affect Goldman-Chase Financial? By tomorrow morning, he would have his answer. Wednesday morning, 6:47 a.m. Richard Blackstone's phone rang while he was still in bed. Sir, you need to see the Wall Street Journal immediately. His assistant's voice was tight with panic. The headline hit him like a physical blow. LeBron James secures $500 million from Warren Buffett for revolutionary infrastructure project. Blackstone's hands trembled as he read the article. Berkshire Hathaway hadn't just approved the loan. They'd invested $200 million of their own money as equity partners. The article quoted Warren Buffett directly. This is exactly the type of forward-thinking infrastructure investment America needs. LeBron James has assembled one of the most impressive business proposals I've seen in 40 years of investing. But that was just the beginning. By 9 a.m., three more major stories had broken. The Gates Foundation announced a $100 million partnership with the LeBron James Sustainable Cities Initiative. BlackRock declared their intention to create a $2 billion fund specifically to support similar projects. The Federal Reserve issued a statement calling the project a model for future public-private infrastructure partnerships. Blackstone's phone began ringing nonstop. Board members demanding explanations. Shareholders asking why Goldman Chase had missed such an obvious opportunity. Competitors calling to gloat about their rival's spectacular failure of judgment. But the worst call came at 11:30 a.m. Mr. Blackstone? This is Janet Morrison from the Wall Street Journal. We're doing a follow-up story on Goldman Chase's decision to reject the LeBron James infrastructure project. Would you care to comment on why your institution failed to recognize what Warren Buffett called one of the most promising investment opportunities of the decade? Blackstone hung up without responding. By noon, Goldman Chase stock had dropped 3.2%. By close of trading, they'd lost $800 million in market cap. All because Richard Blackstone had been too arrogant to recognize genius when it walked into his conference room. Thursday morning, 24 hours after LeBron's visit, Richard Blackstone sat in his office staring at a business card. LeBron had left it on the conference table after their meeting. A simple card with just a name and phone number. Blackstone had thrown it in the trash yesterday. This morning, he'd retrieved it. The financial news was getting worse by the hour. Goldman Chase's competitors were publicly questioning the bank's due diligence failures and outdated risk assessment protocols. Three major clients had called to discuss moving their accounts to institutions with more forward-thinking investment strategies. Blackstone's hands shook as he dialed the number. LeBron James' office. This is Ashley speaking. This is Richard Blackstone from Goldman Chase Financial. I need to speak with Mr. James immediately. I'm sorry, Mr. Blackstone. Mr. James is currently in meetings with the Berkshire Hathaway team. Can I take a message? The words hit him like a slap. While he was dealing with the fallout from his rejection, LeBron was already moving forward with serious investors. Please, tell him I called. Tell him I'd like to discuss Goldman Chase's participation in the Sustainable Cities Initiative. I'll pass along the message, Mr. Blackstone. However, Mr. James did mention that Goldman Chase had already declined involvement in the project. Blackstone swallowed his pride. Please tell him our position has evolved. 3 hours later, his phone rang. Mr. Blackstone, this is LeBron James. The voice was calm, professional, showing no trace of satisfaction or vindication. Mr. James, I want to apologize for yesterday's meeting. I clearly didn't fully appreciate the scope and potential of your project. I appreciate that, Mr. Blackstone. We'd like to reconsider Goldman Chase's involvement. Perhaps we could arrange another meeting to discuss. Mr. Blackstone, LeBron interrupted gently. I appreciate your call, but we've already secured our primary financing through Berkshire Hathaway, and we're in final negotiations with two other institutions for supplementary funding. Blackstone felt his last hope slipping away. Perhaps we could discuss future projects or provide advisory services. There was a pause. Mr. Blackstone, let me ask you something. Yesterday, when I presented this project to you, what exactly did you see? The question hung in the air. Blackstone knew this was his moment of truth. I saw a basketball player with an ambitious idea. And today? Today, I see a visionary businessman who I completely underestimated. That's honest. I respect that. Another pause. Mr. Blackstone, the infrastructure initiative is fully funded, but we are planning additional projects over the next 5 years. If Goldman Chase is serious about evolving your assessment criteria and investment philosophy, perhaps we can discuss future opportunities. It was more grace than Blackstone deserved, and he knew it. 6 months later, the LeBron James Sustainable Cities Initiative was featured on the cover of Harvard Business Review as the deal of the decade. Warren Buffett's investment had already shown returns exceeding projections by 34%. Richard Blackstone kept the newspaper article framed in his office, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. The article quoted him extensively about the experience. "I learned that expertise can come from unexpected places, and that true vision often looks impossible until someone proves it isn't." LeBron James didn't just present a business plan that day. He taught me that success in the modern economy requires recognizing talent and innovation, regardless of its source. Goldman Chase eventually did partner with LeBron on a smaller transportation technology project 18 months later. The investment proved highly successful, but Blackstone never forgot that it was LeBron's grace, not his own business acumen, that made the partnership possible. The story became legendary in Wall Street circles, not just because of the money involved, but because of what it represented. A reminder that in a rapidly changing world, dismissing someone based on preconceived notions could cost you everything. The banking industry began to pay attention to non-traditional investment opportunities. Venture capital firms started recruiting talent from sports, entertainment, and technology backgrounds. The entire financing ecosystem shifted toward recognizing that innovative thinking could come from anywhere. But perhaps the most important change was personal. Richard Blackstone never again walked into a meeting assuming he was the smartest person in the room, because he'd learned that true intelligence isn't about credentials or background. It's about vision, preparation, and the ability to see possibilities that others miss. And sometimes the person teaching you that lesson happens to be the greatest basketball player of all time. Richard Blackstone learned that day that the most expensive mistake you can make isn't losing money. It's losing the opportunity to recognize greatness when it's sitting across from you. LeBron James didn't just seek a $500 million loan that day. He offered Richard Blackstone a chance to be part of something revolutionary. And when Blackstone's arrogance blinded him to that opportunity, LeBron simply found partners who could see what he could see. The real lesson wasn't about business or banking. It was about respect, vision, and the costly price of underestimating someone based on your own limited perspective. 3 years later, the Sustainable Cities Initiative had created over 400,000 jobs and generated $23 billion in economic activity. Warren Buffett called it one of the best investments Berkshire Hathaway ever made. And Richard Blackstone? He became one of LeBron's most trusted financial advisors. Not because he was the smartest banker in New York, but because he was humble enough to learn from his mistakes. What do you think? Was Blackstone's initial reaction understandable? Or should he have recognized LeBron's business genius immediately? Let me know in the comments below. If you want more stories of how the king turns rejection into revolution, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's proving that your vision was right all along. Remember, all stories are fictional entertainment created for inspiration and discussion. The business acumen, global influence, and ability to turn setbacks into comebacks, that's 100% real.